Well, the clock's running, it's just an hour behind. Okay, well, I got 6 o'clock, so we'll call this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order for April 9th, 2024. Report on council actions. Rodney? Anything?
Mr. Chair, you need a roll call?
Oh, it is in big red letters, sorry. Yes.
Garner?
Here.
Miller?
Here.
Dapper?
Here.
Turner?
Here.
Kehoe?
Here.
Morgan? Kirkman?
Here.
Selman? Here. Ben Ucker?
Okay, thank you.
Council on the 9th. Excuse me, today's the 9th. The 1st. Thanks. So the first one was the Baylor subdivision. This is off of Lone Star. They were some townhouse project there with a one new single-family detached dwelling unit, one existing single-family detached dwelling unit, and then 3 buildings with 2-unit townhouses. And that one, you recommended approval, and the city council approved that proposal. The second one was the comprehensive plan map amendment, or comprehensive plan land use map amendment, and the Nampa City Code text amendments that you had recommended. The city council approved that one, but they did change one item, and that was the high-density residential zones. We were struggling to get those to meet the densities that's required by the comprehensive plan with all the setbacks and the open space requirements that we have on those high-density developments. And so we had recommended a 5-foot setback instead of the 15-foot setback, but council felt like they wanted to keep that 15-foot setback. So that was the only change from what you had recommended.
Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda unless anybody's got something they need to remove.
Moved.
Second.
And moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So we got 4 public hearings tonight, 2 of which have been requested to be moved, which are items 3.2 and 3.4. So we'll move those up to the beginning so we can postpone those and get those off our books. And then, so if anybody's here for either one of those will be getting postponed. So 3.2.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Sorry. Action item to subdivision preliminary plat approval for the Laurel subdivision located at 0 Southside, 2 parcels. For Centurion Engineers, David Crawford representing SSM2 Company for 36 single-family attached dwelling units and 10 buildings, 4 of which would be 3-unit townhomes and 6 4-unit townhomes and 4 common lots. Open the public hearing, and there's a request to move that to 5:14.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we move action item 3.2, subdivision preliminary plat approval for the Laurel subdivision located at 00 Southside Boulevard, 2 parcels, 5.15 acres in the RD zoning district for Centurion Engineers, and to a date to be certain of 5/14/2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So that item will be moved to May 14th. So if you were here for that one. The next one is action item conditional use permit for fuel sales in a GBI 1 district at 0 Franklin Road for Jackson's Food Store, Scott Storm, or Stom, for a fuel canopy and 7 multi-product fuel dispensing units, 1 commercial fuel canopy, and 4 diesel fuel dispensing units, 4 underground fuel storage tanks, 6 stalls for future EV charging stations, and a 4,606 square foot retail store. That one's been requested to move to continue to June 25th. So I'll open the public hearing for action item number 3-4. Somebody wants to make a,
Yeah, I will make a motion to move item 3-4, the conditional use permit for Jackson's Food Store to June 25th, 2024.
Second.
move to second, and any discussion?
20th or 25th?
Sorry?
I didn't, I thought he said 20th, but you said 25th.
Was
Is
it 20th?
25th.
Okay, you're right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that one will be moved to June 25th, 2024.
I find it interesting that the 2 items that Parker Bodley was going to
Yes,
present on
yeah.
have been moved.
Comments made.
Yeah, don't think that we didn't catch that.
Rodney did too. He's going to make him stay late next time.
So action item number 3-1, subdivision short plat approval and zoning map amendment from RA to RD zoning district and potential development agreement for Sierra Meadows subdivision, a .57 acre parcel. Address is 9 South Sugar Street for Centurion Engineers, David Crawford representing Alejandro Chaparro. Original concepts, 8 dwelling units and 4 2-unit buildings. Do we have the applicant here? Come on up. Name and address, please, and you have 7 minutes.
Oh, I practiced 10.
Throw some of it out.
Talk fast.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is David Crawford with Centurion Engineers, 2323 South Vista Avenue in Boise. I'm here representing the applicant who is not here tonight, but we've been representing him on another project as well, so hope this goes well. But this development, we're here to present a zoning map amendment and a 4-lot, 16-unit subdivision of .57 acres of land located at 9 South Sugar Street in Napa. This development complements several other recent new developments in the area, and we believe that this will be an attractive addition to the city of Napa. This project is an addition to the original Sierra Meadows subdivision that was approved September 6, 2022, which was prior to the newer city code. We've read the staff report and we agree to all but one of the conditions of approval as noted therein. Specifically, the staff report contains a condition from the city engineer to relocate the proposed driveway so that our entrance aligns with the new development across the street. This is where a brief history of the project really would be helpful. So the project to our north had less than 150 feet of frontage. So the entrance to that property could not be relocated to the city code or the engineering requirement for 150 feet separation from the intersection. There was a bunch of back and forth, and the city staff, both planning and the city engineer, encouraged us to look to the property to the south so that we could move the entrance south. So we had already contacted the property owner about that, and it was not for sale at that time. So we moved forward with the project and went through a bunch of gyrations on that. However, several months later, the property owner did say that he would be interested in selling the ground. So we ran a couple layouts by staff and it all looked good. So we moved forward and the owner purchased the property. We were able to move the entrance 150 feet south of the intersection to comply with the city's original intent. So the owner then put Sierra Meadows number 1 on hold while we were moving this process forward. In between this time, another project that was approved came in and placed an entrance right across the street from our development. And now the city engineer is requiring that we align with that. I would just go to state that this property is very uniquely shaped, as you could tell. As you go further west into the property, it gets very narrow. There's also a bunch of terrain. In other words, it slopes about a 4.5% slope away from the roadway. So it concentrates everything into that narrow corner. So we had to creatively come in with an entrance that was far enough south, bring it through the development into the other one to serve all that property as well. And we consider this is a driveway, it's not a public street. So it only serves this development now. So the condition number 1 specifically indicates in that, it shall be aligned. Well, in reading the Engineering Development Policy Manual, specifically section 105B2C, it states in part that on undivided roadways, accesses on both sides of the road should be aligned. The policy manual does not mandate its alignment. It's preferred but not required. Also, this is a driveway, not a roadway. It's not a major intersection. Driveways are not typically held to the same standards. Additionally, it's constrained size, shape, and terrain. This is what we'd call infill development. And they're typically afforded a little more leniency because they're typically otter-shaped pieces that are harder to develop, which we obviously know. And again, the terrain. But the developer has faithfully moved forward in accordance with the conditions that have set forward by staff and has gone above and beyond. We were asked to move our entrance south from the intersection, and now we're being asked again to move it even further south to match up with the adjoining property. It's a very small piece. Moving the entrance as it was designed south 30 feet, we lose an entire building, an entire lot, and there's no way we can get it back. So the owner made a significant investment based on good faith with the city. We understand that the staff wants the best product for the city, and we do too. And we understand that some properties are harder to develop than others, but we believe that our proposal is the best location in its current configuration. It makes financial sense to the owner and meets the city's needs. In summary, we feel that this project will be an attractive addition to the city of Napa. It provides much needed housing, but it also elegantly handles the development of 2 awkward parcels while maximizing the safety of roadways in the vicinity. We respectfully request approval of the development as proposed. And I'll stand for any questions you have.
I bring you back up here after we hear from staff and public comments, and then we'll get them all answered at the same time. All right. Thank you. Christy, no, Rodney.
Me.
No, Christy. Not Parker.
We know it's
Not
not
Parker.
Parker.
We know it's not Parker.
He ran out of here like a...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Christy Watkins. I'm the Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The request before you this evening is for rezone from RA to RD to provide for the preliminary plat for Sierra Meadows Addition at 9 South Sugar Street. This property is located in the city limits, and it requires a rezone to accommodate the proposed development and to be more consistent with the area around it. The entire area is in the MDR designation and is all zoned RD aside from this one parcel. The surrounding land uses are a mixture of single-family townhouses, apartments, multifamily type buildings, and single-family residences. The comprehensive plan outlines goals and strategies for single-family uses and options for housing affordability. It also defines compatibility between land uses and site and building design. This project provides housing types that meet those goals and definitions. It will be platted in accordance with Title 10, Chapter 10, the RD zoning district. The proposed RD zoning district is a permitted zone within that medium density residential designation. According to 10.3.2 Schedule of Uses, duplexes are an allowed use inside the RD zone. And for safe routes to school purposes, it is 1.1 mile from Park Ridge Elementary. It is not within walking distance. It is half a mile from Endeavor Elementary, and it is within walking distance. It is 3.2 miles from East Valley Middle School, not within walking distance, and Columbia High School is 2.2 miles away, not within walking distance. The city's water and sewer systems have adequate capacity to serve this property, as you can see by this map. The previous northern portion of this development addressed all the traffic mitigation measures that were identified at that time. In response to a requirement to provide an access point that is further away from 3rd Street, the owner of CR Meadows purchased the additional property to create space for a few more units and a more appropriate access point. According to engineering comments, they had a few conditions, as you've heard, and they will be required to dedicate the right-of-way along the frontage of this property. So according to the RD zoning, the density for this particular project actually falls at 14.04 dwelling units per acre. In the short plat process, because of the lot sizes and the density requirements in the comp plan, they are allowed to have a greater density than would normally be designated in that MDR because it's a short plat. The parking requirements, there are 24 units total between the two, so the northern section and then this new section. At two parking spaces per unit would equal 48 spaces that would be required. The parking provided is 61 spaces, which is 2.54 spaces per unit. And they will be providing a 25-foot landscape buffer along Sugar Street. So in the RD zone, they are required to have 6,000 square feet for a duplex. 3 out of the 4 lots measure at 6,000 square feet exactly, and 1 lot measures at 5,098 square feet. Therefore, the applicant is requesting an exception for Lot 4, Block 1 to be substandard due to the characteristics of the property. So there are 3 criteria for determining the rezone of a project. Staff finds that this project meets all 3 of them. It proposes a zone that is compatible with the comprehensive plan. It proposes uses that are compatible with the surrounding uses. And development of this property is in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary because it has to make frontage improvements, it has access to city utilities already, and it has convenient access to one of the schools. The correspondence that was received from the police department requests a commitment to fund .03 additional officers and .01 additional support staff. The fire department indicates that this development is located 1.3 miles from Fire Station Number 1 with an approximate response time of 4 minutes. The impact fees that will be provided upon build out of this portion of the project to the fire department would be $12,536 and would require an increased demand of .02 firefighter positions. These are your conditions of approval. I would recommend that you discuss number 1 with Daniel when you have the opportunity. And these are your potential motions. I will stand for any questions.
Before we get started, I got to ask the attorney, if I'm a neighbor, do I need to recuse myself?
He's okay, he doesn't get.
An apathetic neighbor, but I am a neighbor.
The short answer is no, unless you have a personal interest in this.
Okay.
So, but it's great that you disclose that, so, but you don't have to recuse yourself.
All right, I'm not going to if I don't need to.
You're a good neighbor, though?
Yeah.
All right.
What day is it?
Mr. Chair, the mic that you're using, it sounds like it's echoing or reverb or something like that. Is there, I don't know if that's a way to, oh, perfect, all right. I thought maybe it was my old hearing. That's all I had.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Christie at this time?
Yeah, I do. Christy, can you give us more input as to moving the location of the entrance?
Oh, Commissioner Kehoe, that would be an engineering question.
That would what?
Engineering.
Engineering question.
Well, I was wondering why he was walking up here.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kehoe. So as it's stated in the policy, anytime we have a misalignment of accesses on either side, it creates additional conflict points with the left turning movements at those 2 access points. And so the policy states that they should be aligned if possible. In this situation, previously, when they did not have this portion of the property, we had discussions with them about potentially purchasing a portion of this property to move that as far away from the intersection as possible. With the acquisition of the entire property, that allows for the alignment of that access there. That access there was, construction timing, I couldn't tell you exactly, but it was approved well prior to any of their applications on this property or the previous properties.
Do you have any photos or maps or some kind of something that shows where the driveway was going to be and where you want it to be?
So, Christy, do you have one that actually shows the full stuff? Okay. Let me go back to the staff report.
And it looks like it's minimal amount of feet. How many feet?
Correct, and that's part of that is the issue that if you're going to have a misalignment, the closer they are together, the more conflict there is. If they're not going to be aligned, our standards are for them to be. Let me go back to the other thing. I believe it's 150 to 200 feet apart. Oh, come on. So with minor generators, they are supposed to be 150 to 200 feet apart to provide to minimize the conflict points from those left turning movements. So the situation you potentially run into is you have a car coming out of this property going to make a left-hand turn to the north to go to the intersection at Victory. You have someone coming out making a right-hand turn from the subdivision or the development across the street from that, and because they're misaligned, you have a more likelihood of accidents at that intersection, at those two accesses because of those types of issues with the left turns, right turn conflicts.
Normally, we have a police report that says the number of accidents and so forth in an area. I didn't see that.
Well, and regardless, this isn't necessarily, because this access is not there currently, that's not something we would have a reported incidence of.
Well, but if the intersection at Victory already has...
So we're not talking about the accidents at Victory. We would be talking about the conflict points between the two approaches on Sugar.
Okay. I would say thanks, but I'm not really sure if I want to say that or not.
Any other questions for Daniel while we got him up?
Well, is it possible to throw up a satellite image of this area?
So, Christy, if in the staff report on their actual preliminary plat, it does show, you can see the two approaches there. Let me see if I can go back to that sheet.
Because there's a bunch of streets there, and they're all named Sugar something. Sugar Loop, Sugar Cane, Sugar Avenue. I'm just trying to see where...
So this is directly south of Sugar and Victory. So 3rd Street comes under the railroad tracks, hits the stop sign, that's Victory. This is directly south of that intersection with Sugar Street.
And the request from the city is to align it with the road which is not named on here, that's why I'm confused, with the road going into Covey Run.
Correct.
That runs this way
access
and then
into
angles
Covey
back
Run.
down this way in Covey Run.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's, might be a private name, but.
Because further down, those two roads, one coming out of Sugar Loop Lane is offset from that
Correct.
road going into the south road going into Covey Run.
Correct. There are certainly, this is not something that we are always successful at minimizing conflict points, but when given the opportunity to, it is certainly something we request.
Yeah, so, yeah, okay, I understand that now. I see where it's at.
Anything else for Daniel? Thank you, sir. We'll open it up for public hearing testimony. Do we have anybody signed up?
No, Mr. Chairman, no signs.
Is there anybody here that would like to speak for or against this project? Okay, well, Mr. Applicant, we'll have you back up to see if we've got some questions. I think you mentioned that if you ended up bringing it down to align it, you're going to lose building number 1 or lot 1 there, aren't you?
Correct.
And there's no way to move it up. Yeah, you probably, but your setbacks, you probably wouldn't be able to move it up where you currently have the road coming through because there's not enough room to put it up there, is there? The
Chairman, you're
setbacks.
correct. I looked at several different options to try and move it. The trouble is that we don't have 300 feet. We don't have 150 feet that we can go north and relocate the entrance because then we're too close to Sugar. And if we don't have any more room to go south. I mean, if we go to 30 feet, we lose that entire lot. And there's no way to get it back. It's just gone. So again, I just state that the policy manual says it should be aligned. I certainly recognize the safety issues with it, but it's just came down to a really bad timing issue for us with that development across the street. They weren't going in when we were doing all the land acquisition and planning for this property. It went in after. So it was just a really bad timing. So we really would, ask for the commission's finding and positive to our request.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, the land north of this to Victory, is that part of this same development, just a different phase, if you will?
Correct. Yeah.
Is there any,
Or Commissioner?
is there any option of coming off of Victory? Or I think it's 3rd Street north now. There's no option coming off of that way?
That's where it starts diving down to go under that railroad bridge.
Commissioner, Chairman, you got it exactly right. It's a little substandard road, and there's like 6 to 8 feet of elevation change from the roadway to the top of our ground in that area.
That's where it goes down under the little culvert? Okay.
Yeah, underneath the overpass, the railroad overpass there.
No way to put a,
And I think in the original application, the staff did not support any access off of 3rd Street North in that area. We didn't want to put it there, frankly.
nasty spot to put it.
They paddle in from Indian Creek, just access it that way?
Pardon?
Sorry. That was a dumb joke. Yeah, and then what's already there to the south, that's already built out, so there's no access from
Way
there.
to get access.
And this is typically what we find, commissioners, in infill developments. They're just very difficult, when we're constrained by these different configurations and terrain. Run into it all over. Applying policies absolutely is difficult. If this was green fields out there in farmland where we're doing subdivisions, we can accommodate anything, right? But this isn't.
And the loss of a whole building is pretty financial setback.
Chair, just another quick follow-up question, maybe to staff. Daniel, is Sugar Avenue, what is that designated as? What type of a road? Do you have any idea off the top of your head?
One sec, let me get to that portion of my staff report. It doesn't look like, with a 40-foot right-of-way, so Rodney says it's a local road, however, it functions as, and is developed in the other sections more like a collector.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? No? Okay, well,
All right, thank
thank you,
you.
sir. Make a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded to close public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, what do you want to do?
It's a great project. I like the location. It's going to fit right in. I completely understand from a financial standpoint the loss of a whole unit. That's pretty significant. But I also understand the safety of the roads not lining up too, so.
There's just no other options unless that
Is,
road was improved.
is it totally inappropriate to, I guess, say right in, right out?
I was thinking about that myself.
I mean, it's a weird situation. Daniel? I mean, it's weird, but, you know, I don't know any other solution to it. I mean, that'd solve our alignment issue, right?
So turning that into a right-in, right-out, also, which would also turn the one on the east side into a right-in, right-out as well, that would remove the conflict points. Whether that would, I don't remember the layout of the remainder of the project there for the other portion that is already in or is already approved, and how that would affect the viability of the project as a whole. That's probably something that would be a discussion that the applicant would likely want to have some input on if you were going that direction.
Mr. Vice Chairman, the reason they purchased this property to do this is because we were requiring a right-in, right-out previously, and that was not going to work for them.
And if you turned it into a right-in, right-out, everybody's going to come out of there, go down to that other bottom of Covey Run and back up the Covey Run and back out.
I mean, I'm just trying to think of any other option.
This is the only access point to this whole project, correct?
For this piece, correct, yes.
It goes to, doesn't this access to the point, the one going down on Third, or is there another road?
So, no, there's a piece behind this that's being developed out at the same time, and they were unable to work out any kind of a cross-access agreement
Yeah,
between
so-
the two projects, so this would be
To get to
it.
their whole project, this is their only access, because
Yeah.
there's nothing coming in off of Third down by the railroad tracks. There's no place to bring it.
Correct.
So without this access, they can't develop any.
Well, they still have the right-in, right-out possibility for the northern piece that they've already been approved for, but that is not an ideal situation.
So Christie, what we're saying is profit over safety?
I don't know how to answer that
I
question.
wish I had my crystal ball and I could see what the future would hold, but that's what I'm afraid of, is that, you know, if we have a serious accident, these kind of decisions affect my future. And I'd have to live with myself if somebody got seriously hurt because we made a decision that was not, we did it for the sake of profit for the developer versus the safety of our citizens. To me, it's a very important issue.
How many units are going in that additional piece?
In this one, 8.
The one that's being developed next to it, along with it?
So the total is 24 between the two.
Having spent plenty of time at that intersection, I know that the traffic typically goes through Victory and Third, not up and down Sugar. And so I'd be okay with the alignment.
You mean the misalignment?
With the misalignment, as someone who drives down that road a lot. The right in, right out, I don't like because I'd get so many people driving down my street, it's not even funny. And if that's something I should recuse myself for, I will, but.
I was going to say.
Well, but that's something that you got to think about. I mean, you don't want to cause a subdivision to have to, okay, now I've got to make a right turn and drive through somebody else's neighborhood just so I can get back out to the road and turn left that I.
And that's what I would see happening with Covey Run. Everybody would be coming out, going back through Covey Run and back out.
And I'm not saying that there wouldn't be accidents there, but it's a low speed limit area. So the accidents, I don't think, would be near as serious if that is something that you were thinking about. They're not going to be 45-mile-an-hour accidents because there's a stop sign right there. It'll be 25 miles an hour.
But you also have that misalignment just to the south, too. So
Already there.
that's already there, yeah. So you're putting two misalignments close to each other where everybody's trying to get out the same way.
But is it worth killing a project for? That's the whole point, right? And having that misalignment, and like you said, there is viability to his argument that these are not roads, they're driveways. And there's only 24 units. That's not a lot of traffic adding. So, you know, you'd hate to see a project go away and die because
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a difficult property to do anything on right there.
As far as the code is concerned, does it specify there where, and it's been brought up as far as should align, does it specify what type of road? Does it specify a driveway should align with a road that's coming on the east side, or?
So what it reads is, on undivided roadways, access on both sides of the road should be aligned. Where this is not possible, driveways should be offset by at least 150 to 200 feet when involving minor traffic generators, which is what we're talking.
Okay, so it is specific to a driveway then?
Yes, accesses. It's not specific to public road, private road, it's access.
and specifying size of the project too.
So if I know that road is plenty wide towards Sugar, or towards Victory, is making a middle turn lane a possibility? And say no parking along Sugar? Would we even be able to say something about that?
I would say if that's the desire, that could be a recommendation. We will have to evaluate what that does to the operation of the intersection and everything before we would allow that to proceed. But you could make that as a recommendation upon review and approval of the engineering division. I would say that you are not in a position to dictate lane improvements and traffic improvements, but you certainly can recommend those as something to City Council. Prior to this going to City Council, we would have an opportunity to look at that and see what the implications would be and whether that would be appropriate or not.
Could that be conditioned? Like you condition the approval on whether or not that can be met? Our recommendation to City Council being, we recommend this approval so long as middle turn lane is approved.
By engineering.
I would look to legal to see whether or not, that's,
How specific can or not be?
You stumped me. Essentially, you need to decide, whether to approve this. You can put conditions on it, but I don't believe you can put.
Where are you going?
Apparently, I'm being told to.
Sit down and shut up.
You can put conditions on it, but I don't think you can condition the city to make specific improvements so that a private development can be developed. So
Makes sense.
I would hesitate to encourage you to do that. You can put conditions on the developer, or at least recommended conditions on the developer that would then be discussed at City Council, but
Yeah, and I think that I was more leaning towards, we would recommend approval if the developer and the city could come to an agreement on whether or not that turn lane could exist. But I get what you're saying there. I do, I understand that.
So publicly recommend approval for this, and then in a separate thing say, hey, city, you should look at making a turn lane here?
I don't know that that would be in our wheelhouse. That would be up to engineering and. Yeah, budget and engineering to determine if it's even viable in that particular road. We might think it's wide enough, but I'm not sure.
I know it's not right now, but with the improvements, it would be. As it's built right now, it's not.
Yeah, but I think in all practicality, improvements to that intersection or to that road, adding a turn lane is not going to be a priority. And if it's conditioned on whether this project goes forward based on that, that project's never going forward.
Yeah.
I think just in practicality and reality, it's not.
Well, with the frontage improvements, Daniel, that are going to have to be made on this project and then the one to the north of it, is that going to widen the road enough that there could potentially be a turn lane added?
So, yes, potentially.
Okay. Well, and that's kind of where I'm going. I don't want to say, if they've already got to do frontage improvements, right?
Correct.
And the property to the north has to do frontage improvements, then that's going to widen it enough that potentially there could be. So I guess how do we word a motion that, I don't know how to go about it. That's where we're all.
I think if we were to move down that road, it could be recommended
The city council that we,
with this offset, could be the recommendation. And then down the road, if the traffic warrants it, then at that point, then would put a turn lane in because of, due to safety or due to traffic flow or congestion or whatever it might be. I just, man, thinking down the road with a crystal ball, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think that the traffic, and I appreciate the applicant and the developer doing what the city had asked them to do, move it down, and now they want to move it back, and I hate to see this project killed for that. I'm leaning towards putting in an offset, and I think then deal with whatever comes down the road.
Moving it without the condition.
Yeah, and just letting.
How do we?
So if I could interject for just a moment. From a conflict, from the perspective of the conflicts between the two, adding the turn lane there, I don't know that necessarily reduces the conflict points. And with as Commissioner Miller said, if the improvements are going in, if the width is there, striping is not difficult to change in the future. And so if you are comfortable with the approach where they have stated and you find it, their arguments compelling and the project is good without that, I would tend to just say, make that recommendation for approval to City Council, and I would leave the discussion of a turn lane out. We can certainly look at that in the future as we look at that intersection and turning movements. I would not anticipate that a turn lane there at the intersection and coming south would be something that would be warranted based on the traffic that would be generated from these developments. I guess that's where I would be on it.
And I think even with the turn lane, you're still going to have the same issues if it's offset. They're just going to hit each other in the middle of the road rather
Longer
than.
reaction time. I mean, if you see somebody turning left and there's a center turn lane, it's more time for you to react than if there's not one, I guess. That's the way I looked at it anyway.
Well, an option would be to deny the application and then let the applicant and the city get together and work up something that might benefit everybody.
That's their only option, so either where it's at, or they lose a building, which is costly.
Well,
Mr.
but
Vice
maybe there's
Chairman,
something else that you can do besides a different type of building.
What was that?
you could also continue this to another date and ask them to bring back a solution to this problem after they've had a chance to meet with our engineering department.
That would suit me. 'Cause I'm not going to vote for profit over safety right now.
And that's the thing. I mean, I'm looking at this as far as reworking the design, and I just don't see where they would need to line up. They're going to lose a building, and there's no way to move that building as in such a way that you could make it line up. I mean, I think if these guys as architects, that's what they do all the time, and if it could be done, they would do it. I mean, if it's just a click, click, click of their mouse,
If it
they
could be
would have
done, they
done
would
it.
have already done it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they wouldn't even be here discussing it because it would have said, hey, we changed things a little bit to make the roads align.
Problem is, if you move out Lot 1 to the top corner and bring that road down through there,
It
there's
still
not enough
doesn't
room.
align.
There's not enough room to put that building up there.
Yeah. And the thing is that if you did that, the road still isn't going to align with the other roads across the street. So what's the worst of the evils? To have it in the middle or have it?
I think, move forward with an approval with the striking condition 1.
If only there was another place in the city that had offset intersections.
So we can see what happens.
Locust and Happy Valley. Oh, I'm sorry.
What do you want to do?
I agree with Commissioner Garner. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion if there's no further discussion. I don't want to get in front of.
You're good.
Hey, Mr. Chair, I move to recommend approval of the subdivision short plat approval and zoning map amendment from RA to RD zoning district for Sierra Meadows. The additional subdivision at 9 South Sugar Street for Centurion Engineers Incorporated. David Crawford is representing Alejandro Chaparro. With all conditions listed in the staff report, and to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report, except for condition number 1, we will strike.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I am opposed. I'm going for safety over profit.
That will be moved on to City Council. Thank you. Action item number 3-4, conditional use permit for, oh, nope, that's the one we struck. Oh, now I'm totally lost. Action item 3-3, conditional use permit for multifamily residential in a BC zoning district at 519 and 523 Caldwell Boulevard, a .53 acre parcel for Susan Wanacott, CAW LLC. Original concept, one existing retail building to remain, one existing office building to be removed for construction of new building with 6 commercial spaces on the ground floor and up to 8 multifamily attached dwellings on second and third floors of the building. Applicant here?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Xander King with BRS Architects in Boise, 1010 South Alante, Suite 100. We have presented the project at the last design review hearing and were approved. We'd also received conditional use for this property a couple years ago. The project lapsed with inadequate funding, and so it has been resurrected, thankfully. It's a great project. I think everyone likes it, including the neighbors, and we're just asking for the conditional use being that it is a multifamily project in a commercial zone. However, on the building in question, we are proposing commercial on the ground floor. So it will be a mixed-use facility being in a BC zone, and that's the purpose of the conditional use permit. We feel it's a good use of the property based on the appropriate amount of traffic it will bring, and based on the fact that the residents of the proposed subdivision would have several amenities in the nearby area. So we think it's a really good use of the land.
Thank you. We'll hear from staff. And if we have any questions, we'll bring you back up. Rodney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Rodney Ashby, Planning and Zoning Director. I think the project has been proposed. You can see the location here on Caldwell Boulevard, essentially between Orchard and Midland Boulevard, south side of Caldwell Boulevard, and then also there's, excuse me, this is a portion of a larger project that would front onto West Comstock as well, and I'll show you some of that in just a second. So here's the location in the comprehensive plan. It's commercial. Its zoning is BC already. To the north is BC, Caldwell Boulevard, and public storage across the street, and Combs Used Cars. To the southeast is BC Community Business, and that's part of the project. To the east is Johnson Sewing Center and Western Mountain Auto Sales, and to the northwest is Chapala Mexican Restaurant, all BC zoned. So history of the project is, here's an aerial first, but let me jump to this one. So history of the project is that the projects were, both of these parcels that are outlined here came in separately for CUPs for multifamily, and they both were approved. However, the blue the blue parcel, the one under consideration today, their design review and the CUP expired after nothing happening on the project. The one to the southwest, that orange outlined parcel, is a part of the overall project, and they have requested an extension of their CUP and design review. They've got locked in as well. Is there any questions about that? That was probably the most confusing part of the project. The rest is pretty darn simple. BC zone, purpose, the property area, width, and yard requirements are listed in this table. Of course, there's the number of parking spaces required. This is going to be reviewed at building permit stage, but it appears that they're going to meet this pretty easily. The conclusions of law that you'll have to find in order to approve this. Nampa Building Department comments, Title IV have to be followed, and then Nampa Fire Department, pretty standard comments about distance and about the service they can provide, and then Building Department, whoops. I think I forgot to remove that from the first one. So there's the Building Department's comments. Here's Nampa Engineering Division's comments. Pretty standard. I didn't see anything that was too significant here that we would need to dig into. This is the fire district's comments. I must have just not removed that first slide. Sorry about that. And then staff analysis. They do need to provide 5% of open space, and it needs to be shown on a landscape plan. We didn't receive a landscape plan. I did highlight this in green where they've identified some things like chess, garden, and child play area. That we didn't receive a landscape plan. That wasn't a requirement of a BC a conditional use permit for multifamily in the BC zone. It's not on the checklist, but then it is written in code that they need to provide that. So what I'm suggesting, and it's different than what I put in the staff report, is that they provide that landscape plan and irrigation plan before the building permit can be issued, and they have to prove to us that they're meeting the 5%. From just a quick glance at this, it appears that they're going to meet that 5%. And so I wouldn't have major concerns about it, but we would need to see that in the plans. I talked about the parking. They'll have to meet that, but it feels like they're going to meet that, no problem. And it complies with the comprehensive plan. Here's a couple of elevations that they've provided. You can see there, the bottom left-hand corner is that building that I believe is the one that's remaining up against Caldwell Boulevard. And the rest of these would be the new buildings. So here's proposed conditions of approval. Those are all the same in your staff report except for number 12. So I'm just suggesting that we remove that requirement for the conditional use permit and put it as part of a building permit being issued. I have to have that landscape plan and irrigation plan. And then proposed findings, those are all in your staff report. I'm happy to walk through any of those, but again, you should have all seen these in your packet. And then here's a couple of potential motions for your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions for Rodney?
Just real quick, Mr. Chair, there is access on the southern part of that property, to Comstock, right?
Correct, yeah. That property, you can see that there off of Comstock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But just as a reminder, and that's a good question because it provides that second access to this property, but under consideration is the area outlined in blue.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Did they provide a landscape plan for that other parcel we're not considering?
I don't remember that they did. Actually, it was enough time ago that wouldn't have been required at that point. We just recently put that requirement in for the BC zone.
Okay. Do we have anybody signed up for public testimony?
No, Mr. Chair.
Anybody want to speak more again? Okay, I have to take a motion to close public hearing.
I'll move.
Second. Do we need rebuttal from the applicant?
Did we have anything, I'm sorry, did we have anything we needed to ask her? Anybody have anything we need to bring her back up for? Okay. Okay, sorry. All in favor of closing public hearing?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I think there's another good infill project.
Yeah.
that was
I'll
my
start the
thought, too.
conversation.
I didn't want to say that after the last application, but yeah, I do like those infill projects, and I think this is I said the first time that it was good, and I still think it's good.
Yep, I like the idea with the commercial down below and.
Yeah.
I like it.
Not like it?
I think we're all in agreement.
Okay, well, somebody make this motion, get out of here before 7.
I'm just going to hold off a little bit. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for multifamily residential in a BC zoning district at 519 and 523 Caldwell Boulevard for 0.53 acre parcel for Susan Wanacott with proposed conditions and adopt the proposed findings in the staff report. That includes the change, Rodney, that you already put in there with the, okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So for the applicant, this conditional use permit shall become effective 15 calendar days from the date of the adopted findings of fact unless an appeal has been filed with the Planning and Zoning Department with the appropriate fee. No action should be taken on the CUP until the appeal period has concluded. The applicant must confirm with Planning and Zoning staff that there has been no appeals. Thank you. Motion to,
Okay, Peggy?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.